aka Nick. He says most of the reactions that people are seeing online is that none of these games really look next gen. But honestly, obviously, most generational shifts just look like that, with new games looking like current titles, but pushing slightly further, higher frame rate resolution, ray tracing, etc. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? Because like that's the same argument. I've heard that every generational shift. Like, oh, it doesn't really, with rare exception. I think there was from the SNES to the N64 generation. It was like what, but
So first of all, you have to realize like this generation can only push so far because all these games are going to be supported on original Xboxes.
mm-hmm.
So you can't have something that's just so groundbreaking it won't run on the past gen, because this whole thing is about not leaving people behind. So you're limited on what you can do. So you can't have something that has 50,000 enemies in a fight for the first time ever, because your Xbox One isn't going to support that, even if the Series X can. Second of all, it's really hard to get a feel from gameplay, especially when they're not showing us gameplay. They're showing us a lot of trailers. And so like loading times are one of the big things they've harped on this generation. And that's something that you just feel in the moment to moment gameplay, that moment when you hit start and you need to back out of something. And it's just like, oh, okay, I can do that. And like, so that's what I'm expecting from the Series X, that like, I don't think they can show us. They can tell us it's there, and then we just have to wait.
See, for me, when I look at the Series X, like games, even on Xbox, PlayStation 4, like PC, like they look great. Like they, like I'm not sitting and saying I need them to be photorealistic. However, when I look at for me as just a gamer, and this is as a parent, as an adult, I look at what is going to be the real next gen impact, just like Xbox Live was on the 360, like where Geometry Wars was was almost like a system seller because it was so good, but Xbox Live with achievements and all that was so good. What I'm looking for is speed to load into the game. If they can, they're talked about integrating xCloud so that you could stream the game while it downloads to your console, like having that fully integrated. Because what I've really come to appreciate about with GeForce Now, with with Stadia, not so much with Shadow PC because I still have to do updates, but like with all the cloud things, it's like it's ready for me. It's ready to go. I don't have to worry about an update. I don't have to worry about my specs. I can just click, I'm in the game, and I'm playing. And thus, even if I've got 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, I'm not worried about spending a fraction of whatever that time is waiting for an update, waiting for, oh God, like, hey, I got a driver update. Like, all of those things that prevent me from jumping in the game are things that I start to look for the path of least resistance. Why do I play so much Switch right now? Well, outside, unless the game has an update, like it's, oh, okay, well, I got update Forza Horizon. All right, I'm gonna go. I guess I'm just gonna play this. So I end up not playing maybe the game that I was hoping to play. I end up playing the game that is available to me, and that's fine. But that's what I'm looking for that next generational shift. If I'm spending, like, loading screens are going, like, that reduction, that's what I'm going to feel. The frames per second, 60 frames and up locked, and that's what they've announced, like 60 frames and up. Like, people are going to feel that. Like, that is something that is just like, you're going to just sit here and it's going to be...
You can't tell now.
Yeah, no. Well, same thing with all this. You can show me a trailer all day, but once I've got the controller in my hands, is it enjoyable? It doesn't ever, like, we've gotten to a point where video games, it doesn't matter what they look like. It's matter how they feel when you play them. And that's kind of where, when we look at kind of the YouTube perspective, like where cloud gaming as just an idea has it's an upward battle right now, because I can show you a great looking game, you're like, that, all right, how's the lag? No, it's like when you feel it, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I either have lag because of issues with my network, or I don't. That's when all of a sudden light bulbs start coming off. You're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
See, I'm catching up on chat.
That she tried to solve, and she has some kind of a hint that the answers can
be Gears 5, like, so Nick's talking about like the games like The Grace, you see 4, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us 2, Gears 5, like all those look great, and then all of a sudden you just factor in they're even showing them like enhanced for the next gen. It's like, yeah, like it looks better, but not in such a way that people are going to be like, oh my gosh, like And that's the thing, like, it's not gonna, it is gonna be years before all of a sudden you're like, oh, this could not be done on PS4, this could not be done on Xbox, this can only be done on the next
Which
gen.
PlayStation won't have that, right? PlayStation will have that stark transition from 4, like it'll just jump.
If they stick with
because
it,
they're leaving behind the previous console.
if they stick with it, they haven't made any official announcements, but there's been some things saying like, okay, we're looking into it and things like that. PlayStation is an interesting spot
but devs can't pivot that quickly. If devs did something that's going to be a PS5 exclusive, PlayStation can't go back and be like, oh, we also want you to run on 4 now.
Right. Not like in that regards, but what we're looking at is that when the PS5 is like, hey, this is a PS4 game, and then we've also made a PS5 version. But you're right, like if we're targeting PS5 specs without the idea of coming back, but that would only, I think, be for second-party exclusive games, because essentially if you're a third party, if you're Bungie, if you're whatever, you're like, I'm going to do this work, and it's going to be on Xbox, PS4, Series X, PS5. Third party is not going to sit here and say, how can I limit the amount of people that can purchase this game? But that's where the first party comes in, and second party to a degree comes in and saying like, how am I going to highlight why you want this system? And we haven't seen anything from PS5, and they could show up and just truly like blow people away with that whole point that you just made.
They could. I wouldn't set my expectations that they have to do that.
Right, because Sony hasn't really shown anything. Like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, like when you look at over the last couple of years, like here's these games. And then it's like they're not showing anything else. And so the studios are, hard at work probably, and they're like, yeah, here we go, PS5. It's like so Ghost of Tsushima is like the last official PlayStation game announcement that people are like aware of. And that comes out in July, and so maybe at that point you start to really see that marketing, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. The Lazy Enigma says, will you guys be discussing the Last of Us 2 controversy? And so, Chris, are you aware of what's been going on with The Last of Us? You adult working.
I'm working a lot.
Catch you up, story leaks, obviously, online. That's a big concern. There's
an indefinite delay, right?
Well, and they finally got a release date, so it's the indefinite delay is no more. The other side of this, I love that he's dead his refrigerator as a as an Xbox for his background. But the other side of it is that like just the studio, the development practices and things like that. It's unfortunate for me, like outside of like leaks. I think they came out and discovered that it wasn't a disgruntled employee, so somebody got the story and then leaked it online. That's disappointing. The outside of that, the dev and how they've treated the devs and how they've been working the devs and crunch and things like that. All that the game has to be is great, and all of that will be forgotten and forgiven. Not in general, like in general, the population will forgive it. An individual can be like, I'm not going to play that game because of how they played it. But we've seen it, and it's just unfortunate. And this isn't me trying to be cynical. It's just me as a math guy looking at the numbers, hands over hands. Every boycott, every they're Call of Duty screwing us, or this is happening. All of that has only led to the biggest sales of a game, no matter what. And you look at it time and time again. And honestly, to the point where the cynic in me is saying, this is great marketing. People making videos, because there is no risk. Like from my perspective as a YouTuber, I can go and sit here and say, this is going to suck. What they're doing is wrong. I'm angry at this because of whatever, X reason. And what's going to happen with that is if the game does suck, if it's not good, people aren't happy, I look like a freaking prophet and a genius. And then for years I can call me like, guys, I was the only one telling you the truth about this. Look at me. Like, it just gives you even more clout. If the game is great, people forget about it. They forget that you were angry at it. Because they were like, all right, it's just like, this is fun. Oh yeah, somebody had a bad take. It's like time goes by, things are forgotten, things are forgiven. So there literally is no risk. And that's one of the things I think why you see a lot of frustration and a lot of distrust within kind of the YouTube gaming community. Cause it's like, like, do you really have that take? Do you really have that belief? Or are you playing a game? Are you playing the negative game in and of itself? So I think that's kind of where it comes down to it. It's, I don't know. I go back and forth because there are things that we should legit speak on.
So what was leaked?
The story, the whole thing. Yeah.
Right.
They leaked the game. Like, it's like, you could sit here and be like, here's what happens. Here's the story. And so then the fear and the concern, and I didn't really follow it because one of the, like, I'm not a big Last of Us fan, but if I do decide to go play it at some point, like, I'm like, okay, I'd like to enjoy it without spoilers. So the concern is that anytime somebody's was talking about the controversy, whether it's on Twitter or even like with reviews, I was like, somebody might just pop in and ruin it, right? There's the risk on a thread, like, hey guys, story spoilers are out there, be careful. And then, like, if you go look at the thread, somebody could be like trolling and be like, here's the, like, while trying to inform people, you could end up risking to, avoid, kind of butcher it in a way. Let's see here. It's harder to discuss the pushback against TLEO without discussing the story spoilers. Yeah, it is. It is very hard. And I didn't go read the spoilers. I don't, I'm like, I was just like, I'm hands off of that. I'm not going to sit here and bother with it. Chris, before we wrap, because like the question I was going to say, like, I know you're taking your lunch. I need to get back to work. I was thinking we might try to do a podcast. We haven't done one in a while since I've been sick, and we've been kind of gearing back up. But you want to share your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake because you've been playing it.
I didn't get to play this weekend, so I haven't finished it.
How far are you into it?
I'm in the home stretch, I think, so I'm not ready, but I'm really liking it.
Yeah.
I'm really liking it. It feels every bit as good as the demo. I was worried that it wouldn't carry through.
How do you like the Matera system?
I don't know that I'm doing it right because I'm intentionally avoiding other people. Like, so I haven't gone online and looked anything up. So like, I think my thoughts on the game are like, this is the first time in a long time that I've wanted to enjoy a game like totally privately.
Just, yeah.
And like, I don't really care if I'm doing it wrong or like if they're, oh, well, that could have been way easier. Okay. like it's my journey. And that's something that that's something that you don't get very often.
Mm-hmm.
Is a game that you're hyped on enough that you want to like just play it for it.
Yeah.
Usually the first thing you do when you come across like a quest that's hard in Final Fantasy, like on Final Fantasy XIV, is you just like go Google the guide.
Yeah.
Like it's the first thing you do. And it's because so much of 14 for me is about like enjoying it with other people. And so like getting stuck on something takes away from that. And so the guide doesn't ruin my gameplay experience. But this kind of takes me back to like Final Fantasy X, which is from a time in my life when like there wasn't just a video guide. And so I thought, well, I wonder if this will change the way I look at this game because there's tools available now. And no, I 100% go right back to the way I played before, where I just want to play it in my own home. I don't want other people. I don't want to stream it. It's just me. Which is neat, and you kind of get to take it at your own pace. So I'm looking forward to when you get to go hands-on with it.
Yeah, me too. I've been playing Trials of Mana, and I love that. Maddie and I have been playing that together. It's also a remake in and of itself because,
do you go look up how other people are experiencing, or do you it's just you and Maddie?
It's just me and Maddie, hands down. Like, and that's the thing. That's kind of some of the things that like I put out a video, guide for it, kind of just like, here, let me break down the systems, let me teach you it. And it's part of it's like picking your characters, and it's like I continue to harp on that. The best setup is the setup you're gonna enjoy. It's like there are people who are like, I want to be the most efficient, I want the most power. It's like, okay, this is what generally is accepted. However, just play, especially in a single player game, just play the way you want.
Did you optimize for Octopath Traveler, or did you just like? Did you kind of, oh, this is the one you want to start as and all that? Or did you just...
I just pick what speaks to me. Like, that's just the way I play. I always pick what speaks to me. That's why it's like, it's always interesting when we get those comments in videos. Like, how could you possibly pick this? This is like, it's like, okay. Especially in a non-multiplayer game. I ain't impacting you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting to get into the point where it's like, hey, I'm trying to beat it a second time, or there's an expert mode to a game or an unlock of some kind that I'm having trouble getting, like that's where you realize like, oh my God, like if I change this one thing, I can do 15 times the DPS.
Mm-hmm.
Like right, because there's a DPS check, and so you have to do it right, for lack of a better term.
Right.
But otherwise, like the other thing in games, like I don't care if there's cheats in games. Like I don't care. The thing about single player games is like it's yours. If you want to mod it, if you want to cheat, if you want to be popped right to the end, if you want to play it optimally, if you want to just mess around at your own pace, like you're not affecting anybody else. Like I feel very differently in 14 when somebody says like, oh, you don't pay my sub. Yes, but you are in my party, right? Yeah. You're affecting my gameplay experience, and you're affecting it to the point where I felt like I needed to say something. So it's not just, oh, they died to something I didn't die to.
That's the other side of elitism,
literally making my day worse.
Right. That's the other side of elitism. Is like elitism has two connotations that are both polar opposites. You've got the hardcore elitist, right? Like it's like if you're not optimal every second, even in like the easiest content, that's elitism. Then you have the casual form of elitism that it says, I'm playing this game as a single player game, but I'm in a multiplayer experience, and now I'm impacting other people because, and it's not the sense that it's like I am unaware. It's I am unaware to the point where even if you're friendly, it's that sense that if someone's being a jerk and you're like, hey, you're an idiot, how could you possibly, cast ice, etc. It's like, you don't want to do that unless these situations, like if you're being abrasive, the person naturally as a human is probably gonna be like, F you, dude. Sure. Like, I'm just here, but if it's like, hey, you want some tips? And they're like, F you, dude, you don't pay my sub. Like, that's the form of casual elitism where those two sides butt their heads and run into, each other in and of itself. Bungie has confirmed to be working on something for Xbox Series X. What? I would assume we would see some kind of Destiny update, and that'll be kind of curious to see how they do that cross-gen, migration. But they also said that they wanted to make other games as well, and they got that big investment from China. So that's going to be how that is. The disappointing thing back to the 7 remake versus the Trials of Mana. Trials is a complete game. They have announced, and I think it was today or just last night, they have yet to begin development on episode 2 or part 2 for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And hopefully that's not a 7-year process or a 5-year. Like, I think it was 5 years. When they announced Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was like, that looks like a great 2020 game. And oh my gosh, like I said that because it's just how Square's been developing recently. And then it's like, unfortunately I was correct on the release year. He said sarcastically and a little bit bitter back in 2015 or whatever. Oh my goodness. But when I read that, I was like, that was just frustrating. I was like, oh no. So because the other thought I had, and I guess this will be a debate because in a year it will come to other platforms, right? Maybe that's Series X, maybe that's, PC, whatever. However, I was then thinking, like, is it better to wait and then have the complete version, or to play it in the parts and when it's released at the time it's released?
For 7?
Yeah.
Okay, so I view the episodic nature as being told that we are in season 1 of Breaking Bad.
Okay.
So if you knew that then, right? Because I do think this has the potential to be that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That kind of, what is it? 6 seasons in a movie is the joke. It has the potential to be that good. The polish is there. Then if you want to talk about it between each step, if you want to be part of that conversation where we're guessing and we're hyping and we're talking about spoilers, then you need to play it as we go.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to enjoy it in the full experience and you don't mind avoiding those conversations, and you know that when you get to the end, you don't need somebody to be there to have those conversations, then I personally prefer to binge a show. I personally prefer to tell somebody like, right now would be a great time to start Westworld, because I don't know if that was the finale of all time, but I feel like the finale that we came off this season was the first time that I feel we ended on a complete thought out of all the seasons so far.
Okay.
now's a great time to start a lot of HBO shows. Because they're coming to an end, right? Yeah. And so like now's a great time to go back and watch Community, which just came to Netflix.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so good to rewatch that.
Finish it.
Well, we did. Julie and I watched like every season, and it was it was such a fun thing. I also like the Rick and Morty, but for different reasons. It's just so but Community, I think it's just this. Oh, man,
I think it's Claire's favorite show.
But it's so smart, and it's so fun that it's on Netflix, because it's like Julie and I went and we actually just marathoned, because there's different episodes and themes that run through over the seasons. So we were like, let's watch all the ones with the dark timeline, like every reference to the dark, yeah. And it's like, and how it concludes and how it builds, and it was just so good. And so it was just so smart. And then did you ever catch the Beetlejuice joke that they threaded through multiple seasons?
No, I don't.
It's so clever. It's so clever. If you guys haven't checked it out, you can Google it. But over the course, I think, of the first 3 seasons, there's a Beetlejuice joke. And so it pays off, because if you say Beetlejuice, 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 he shows up. And so in the 3rd season, like when they say it, like you see Beetlejuice just walk in the background. It's just so subtle. It's so genius. It's so
How
much
I Met
fun.
Your Mother does a lot of that, where they'll set up a joke that doesn't pay off for X number of seasons.
Yeah.
Like the level of writing that takes to know that, okay, 5 years from now, we're going to need this to pay off. And like, you have to lay that in. Because if you go back and watch How I Met Your Mother, those jokes are all set up that far in advance.
Oh yeah. It's I love that kind of writing. So Real Hot Chili Pepper, what's up, dude? It says part 1 took about 45 hours, and I still need to do a hard mode for the extra content. I like that it's got a new game. Plus, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out forward with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Chris, it's been an hour. I know we both got to get back to work. Anybody is there anything in chat that you missed, or is anybody got a question? Because we're going to get back to work, and maybe we can finally get a podcast down the schedule and get back into a regularly scheduled podcast. I miss it.
It's been hard to maintain a daily schedule. I have trouble keeping track of what day of the week it is.
Oh, it's insanely hard. Like it's Thursday, and it's like it feels like every day.
I feel like this was the week I was planning on getting back to normal, and it's Thursday, and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Well, good luck on getting back to normal.
It's just kind of, I don't know. It's hard.
Chris, I have been enjoying my first playthrough of WoW with controller support. So Chili's been
cool.
He's been using a plugin, and and they have it obviously coming with officially with controller support. Within it's in the alpha now, and within the Shadowlands. So I'm looking for it. I'm going to go hands on with it. Like it's, as Chris and I have always said, like if we have a litmus test, like you're saying, like I'm not going to play your game unless you add orcs, and then they go and add orcs, and then you're like, well. And I'm not going to play it now because of this. It's like, no. Like they give them no reason. I've been saying like, yeah, if WoW brought in official controller support, I'll definitely give it a shot. I think it could really open it up to a lot of players.
So the new player experience is also getting massively redone.
Right. Now whole 1 to 60.
So we'll need to kind of talk about this behind the scenes, but like I would be really interested in sharing with you, like, like Saturday mornings or something, we play for an hour. Like I would love to go through an experience from a new player, kind of how you take this on.
So would that be something, because Star Wolf, he gifted me the whole collect, like here it is right now. And I said, I was going to wait to the whole 1 to 60 new, like, hey, like, cause it's got the controller, it's got this. Right. I was like, my thought is, well, wait, but that could be something that could be a lot of fun to like, let's block some time, put it on the calendar. Cause I would be very curious as a player. Cause it's like, I don't have a lot of nostalgia for WoW. When like I can only play at a keyboard and mouse for a certain amount of time. Like I can sit down, I can do it for a little bit. Eventually, I want to take this default position. I want to lean back and play, and having that option. People are like, you're gonna get killed in PvP. I don't care. I don't care.
You're not going to, because like WoW is much closer to Final Fantasy in that aspect now. Like if you're in world PvP, it's not by accident. You opted in.
Right. I'm choosing to, and then I know that either I'm playing with a handicap or I'm not. I always find it funny how many people like
you're not in a turn-based. Well, I mean, you're not in a tab target. I don't think in a tab target RPG that you're giving up that much ground, because there's already a global cooldown built in. Final Fantasy or WoW.
Yeah.
The extra buttons is nice and everything. So like, I think there's like a slight advantage there, but like you can make up for that.
it's a
especially
slight
in games
it's a
or
slight
macros.
advantage from a muscle memory perspective. Like if I have the ability and I can commit, I can be just as fast, if not faster, wherever I'm most comfortable. Right. And that's just like but it's a muscle memory. Now, if there's certain things like I can't do, like, oh, I need to play with a controller and randomly use my mouse to select something, like that's like this time to hand off, etc. And that's one of the things that's great about like kind of the Elite and Pro controllers is like the abilities. So like in a shooter, like I can jump and I can do different actions without taking my hands off the sticks now. And it makes me far more effective at those kind of games. And so there is, I'm not going to sit here and say there isn't a difference when it comes down to hardware and things like that. Midnight says, for some games, I am way better with a controller and then mouse and keyboard. For other games, it's the opposite. Probably like a strategy or a real-time strategy game where you want to select massive amounts of troops. Like I think that, there is definitely going to be, preferred methods of control when it comes down to that. But I think those games are also a little bit shorter. Like I spend way more time in an MMO than I do in a RTS, so it's like, yeah, for 30 minutes, I can sit down and play on a mouse and keyboard. I work on it all day. Like, that makes sense, but yeah, that's just my thoughts. 5-man I can see, but raids, that sounds rough. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. All right, guys, we're going to wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us for the live reaction to the gameplay. I guess we could put it in quotes. All right, cool deal. I guess I should follow. Boop. Oh, I'm not even signed in on Mixer. All right, guys, love you much. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see